What's up, YouTube? Southern Comic Geek coming to you with not an unboxing. That's right, not a comic book haul. But what we're talking about tonight is not screaming kids in the background. What we're talking about tonight is foreign editions. And after looking for foreign editions, if you're a newbie collector, before watching this show, that is, you might be doing like my kids are in the background right now, and that's screaming your heads off. But that's what we want to prevent from happening in your life. And so I have brought some experts, especially considering my limited knowledge in foreign comic editions. And that is these two gentlemen here. We've got Matt and Rob. What's going on, guys?
What up?
What's going on, comic fam? Back again.
Yeah. So if you didn't catch the show that Rob and I had done before, go back in the playlist and check that out. But we do appreciate those of you who are already joining us. What's going on, Sith Lordly? Sith Lordly and I will be talking in Star Wars. And so, Sith, we're going to show some Star Wars in a little bit. But we'll be talking Star Wars on Wednesday. William Smallwood, what is going on, sir? We do appreciate those of you who have joined us early, and for those of you who will join us later as well. But if y'all want to take maybe a minute to just kind of introduce yourselves to everybody, and then we'll get to talking about some foreigns. Who wants to go first?
You go, Rob.
As a returning guest, Rob Comics as usual. But today we're going to give you guys a little pieces of cornbread as far as being able to look up some of these, amazing books to add to your collection. It's always about the diversity of it, not exactly how many you can acquire, but it's always good to have something that's different to make you just go,
To borrow Arsenio Hall's catchphrase, right?
Yeah.
Make you go,
Yeah.
All right. Well, what about you? Go ahead, Matt.
DEFINE999 here. That's my moniker, aka Matt Roybal. I guess my claim to fame is I was one of the founders of Foreign Comic Collector magazine. We started the magazine a few years ago, and with some like-minded collectors at the CGC boards. And I have just become a foreign edition comic junkie, like bad. And as I started going through it and acquiring more books for my collection, I just, ran into some other like-minded peeps, and before we knew it, we had a whole community. And what's really wonderful about it is the community is international in scope. We've got friends at the FCC. I'd like to call out the FCC site on Facebook. It's Foreign Comic Collector Magazine Facebook group. And we got people from all over the world. And I just love this part of the hobby, man. This part of the hobby saved my collecting soul. I was becoming, how can you put this? I was basically just becoming jaded. Okay. I was becoming jaded at the hobby was simply just transactional to me. It was just about the money. I'd seen all the same dang books before. I'd go to shows. I'd see all the same stuff. I started doing the buy and flip game to try to upgrade my keys. And it just started to lose its prettiness, its novelty. It started losing the shine. So I found something that reignited that collecting passion in me, and it's foreign editions. So thanks for watching.
Now, a couple things. So notice that he said foreign edition. Now, I am probably like many other people that would call it foreign variants, right? But they are editions, as I have been corrected by both you guys. So the other part was that I was talking with Matt one night about foreign edition collecting, and I don't know if I should have heeded the call, but his wife told me to run. She said it was a black hole, and she will fall down. Run while you can.
Get out while you can. Wait, Rob, what's the metaphor we use for this? What's the metaphor we use for this part of the hobby? What do we call it?
It's a drug. Gateway drug. It's addictive.
It's a drug. It's addictive. It's a sickness. Yeah. Ask me how many American vintage books I bought this year.
How many American vintage books did you buy?
2.
Well, and the interesting thing to me too, what Rob was talking about earlier, is the diversity of it, right? Because we've all got that one grail, those couple of grails, right, that we want in our collection: Hulk 181, ASM 300, Star Wars 1, whatever it is, and we've got those grails. Once we achieve that grail, we then kind of we start putting things in our collections that we really don't want, but it's the flavor of the week. It's just, yeah, I've already achieved this goal. I can't keep going. The thing for me with foreign editions is that it allows you to continue to focus on those few books that you love, but opens up your mind to what else is available in those books. And of course, the aspect of hunting and collecting can seem overwhelming, at least to me. And that's some of what we're going to be talking about tonight, because it's not just as easy as typing it into your English eBay and coming up with the answer that you're looking for. And we'll talk some more about that in a little bit. So run far away from foreign.
JGZ. Yeah, you're right. It's addicting as hell. My wife was not inaccurate.
So why don't we, before we get to diving into that, why don't we, I know, Matt, you got some, Rob, you showed one earlier. We got some books that we can show before we get started.
Yeah, let's show pickups.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Rob.
So for you guys out there that are watching, I showed this earlier, from my comic shop. As you can see, it's an American-based company. You see it. And like what we're going to discuss tonight is that sometimes you're not going to find the English title in my comic shop. You have to really type it in. But for those that know, this is the first M'Baku, Avengers 63. As you can see, it does not say Avengers. But all of that, you have to type it in exactly as is, number 61, to find this book.
German. Love the German stuff.
Now, mind you, this book is as far as I'm concerned, this is the cleanest copy I've seen so far. All the ones I've seen, it's been like wear and tear on the spine. But this one they gave it an 8.5. Me looking at it closely, I'm thinking it might be a 9.2 with a nice press. But it's, it's a little shade smaller. This is a Silver Age bagboard. So it's a little larger than a modern, but just thin enough to be in this. But I'm starting this set. I have the Spanish La Prensa and I have the US. So I'm definitely going to probably finish this set out to begin with. And when we were talking about editions, right? So I bought this one because I want to start this set. Wonder Woman 206. This is the US. Got this for $20.
Wow.
Now how we know it's not a variant is because they use the same exact one in Mexico. Now, I know what you're saying. All the writing on it, it looks bad, right? But I want you to know that Mexican Navarros are like the bane of any collector in foreign existence because these are so hard to come by. You'll take this in any grade you can get your hands on because, like you said, you might not see it again. Now, to add to the flavor.
Not to interrupt you, Rob, but I did want to pause right there because I think that's a really good point. And that is that in the normal collecting market, as what I refer to it, most people are grade chasers, right? They want that 9.8. They're not satisfied with a 9.6. It's like it's got cancer or something. They don't even want to touch it.
Yeah.
So what you were pointing out was it's not about the grade. It's more about getting that book because of the scarcity of it. So, that to me is an interesting part of the foreign editions. And it can be that way with American edition comics because some people say low grade's better than no grade. But it has gotten away from that to where people are like, hey, I've got to have that 9.8, or they continue to trade up until they get that 9.8. Nothing wrong with it. And I will go ahead and also forewarn anybody, nobody's trying to say one style of collecting is better than another. Okay. It's to each their own, right? What we're talking about tonight is just another aspect that you might or might not have been familiar with before in the comic book collecting. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but do appreciate it.
It's great.
Yeah.
So with that being said, like I said, this came from a private collection. I had someone that, knew somebody that was selling it. And I bought all of the ones that came in this run for Nubia. And in that deeper dive, I got someone in Australia to send me the magazine size one. And as you can see, somebody wrote on that one as well. But this one is a shade bigger than the regular one. So as you can see, they are a shade smaller. So only one I'm missing now is I have a German one coming. And that one has the same cover as the rest of them. And it's only 4 books in this set. So I'm almost done with the Nubia run, 204 to 206. Yes, Mars Comics. This one's from Mexico. Mexico, US, and Australia. As you can see, it's a Superman title, not Wonder Woman.
All right.
And I got 2 more pickups here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have the US. I got this back from CGC. I got my copy graded. This is the first silk, right?
Nice.
Now, why not get the South Korean edition?
Woo! That's nice, man.
So as you can see, you would say it's a variant, but it's not. It's the same exact art on the inside. And it's thin. It's not like it's a trade paperback or anything.
That's nice, Rob.
So,
then,
so question on that. So with the newer foreign editions, are they traditionally going down to the size of the American ones, whereas in the past they didn't? Or is that just depending on the country?
Depending on the country. Now with Korea, they do, well, Japan, they actually do theirs in trade paperback form, which my next pickup, which I shared on my Instagram page if you're a part of it. This is the Japanese Miss Marvel one. It's a trade paperback. It's pretty thick.
Yeah, that's sweet looking book.
And as you can see, let's see if I can get it here. It says it collects Miss Marvel 1 through 5 and Marvel .1. Everybody knows that that's the first full appearance of Kamala Khan. Now, in this case, I got the actress that did the voiceover for the Avengers game, Sandra Saad. I got her to sign it, and she wrote in big and on the side.
Huh.
So
that's cool.
Which I would consider one of a kind. Shout out to Steve Bagley. He's one of the guys in the group. So I made my one of a kind with this.
He termed the term oak.
Yeah, one of a kind.
One of a kind. It's an oak. Nice, dude.
Yeah, and
So,
as Louis pointed out, Silk is Korean American. So
yes, it's only right.
Yeah.
Is that a set that you're going to go after now, or you just happen to see that one like the book and decide to pick up just the South Korean version?
We're going to get into how many are out there. We're going to get into that. So don't want to actually dig too into it right now because I know Matt does do his. So we'll dig into that later. We'll put this one on pause.
All right. Well, let's go to you, Matt, and show some of your new pickups.
Okay, so I had a killer mail call. These 4 pickups came in one mail call, and I had been searching for some of these for years and never seen one. Forever People. This is a Navarro, so this is the first dark seed or the first full dark seed. I forget how they call that. Now, remember with a lot of foreign publishers, they would take titles and mix them, combine them. They did all this different stuff. The Forever People is in the Cuentos de Misterio run. And I'd also like to talk about a little bit what Rob said. Particularly in Mexico, DC is harder to find than Marvel. The reason is, according to many of our Mexican sources and contacts, is that for the most part, Mexico were, the kids in Mexico were Marvel zombies. They were, I've heard some people say that it could be as big of a difference as like 80% Marvel, 20% DC. Now, the more mainstream titles like Batman or Superman or even Wonder Woman, you can find them, but it can still be extremely difficult. But with the more obscure DC stuff, like a Forever People or like a Demon, like Kirby's Demon also, That stuff can be ghosts. You just can't find it. I had not seen this book for sale in years. And look at that crazy miscut that they had. Rough miscut. But I was really stoked with this. Next one's House, I think it's House of Secrets. This was the first mystery format DC. I always forget the number, but I've always loved this cover. This is another one that we think we can only place maybe on two hands how many we've seen. So when I found this one from that same seller, you know, it's a little rough. It's not in the best condition. It's dirty. You'll see up on the top there. It's got some grime, but this is another one of those books that in pretty much any grade, if you find it and you're into DC horror, you just got to buy it. Grade be damned, right? Because grade is, is a whole nother thing. There's nothing wrong with seeking out the best books possible, but if you're kind of, I hate to say this because it might sound negative, if you're kind of a grade snob, you're not going to have a very big foreign collection because you're not going to have any books. It's really that simple. This is the Men Adventures Shrunken Head cover. This is from Editorial Soul. You'll see, you can figure out those books because they have a little sun in them up there. And this is another rare horror golden age that you just don't see. When I saw this, I was like, oh man, I gotta have that. And Editorial Soul books, they're rare enough that pretty much when you see them in any grade, if you've got the money, buy the damn things. But this one is, the classic Shrunken Head cover. And this one actually causes my heart to increase in pumping. It's one of the most iconic Bats, Villain, Keys covers that I think is out there. The first Mr. Freeze, but of course back then he was called Zero. This one for sure, I think we only know of, this might have been the 9th copy ever to surface. We know that it made its way to Spain because it's got the Spanish stamp. In Spain, they would stamp them. They'd call them Juvenal. What does it say there? Juvenal. Okay, can't see it. Editores. Yeah. So it's like a youth publication. And so oftentimes with the Mexican Spanish books, remember that the Mexican Spanish books were printed for all of Mexico, all of Spanish-speaking South America, and Spain. So just like our comics were sent over to Britain, so that's why you have UK price variants, Navarro would just ship them. They would get a Spanish stamp for the pricing. And then later in Navarro's history, there are actually Spanish price variants. So they were printed in Mexico and then shipped, just like the UK pence variants. Now, we can call those variants. Why? Because this is the difference. A variant is printed at around the same time as the other book, right? You can call them variants because they even ran on the same press oftentimes. A foreign that was printed years later or months later, variant doesn't fit the classification. So the classification that best fits these books are editions. And editions is borrowed from the book hobby. In the book hobby, it would be Mark Twain first, Kathmandu edition. I mean, whatever. It's a more accurate classification, and it moves us away from the variant classification, which honestly is kind of buzzwordy, right? It's not very academic. But yeah, so these 4 books, man, Merry Christmas to myself, because I love them. Love them.
Well, really, I should have went first and allowed y'all to show all that heat later, because now it's a hard act to follow. So I did pick up this one. This is a Japanese version of Rye.
You got the Obi.
Big vibe. What's that? And so I had
the OP is that little slip paper down the bottom.
The little dust cover. See that? Yep.
Yeah, that's the OP at the bottom.
It actually comes with the coin, or came with the coin.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it was for people that know the channel, know me, know that I collect a lot of Valiants. So I'm a weirdo in the first place. But also picked up Gold Key, French edition. Got this eBay on the cheap.
Best way to be.
And then we've got a couple of folks in here. Vincent McLean, the Comic Machine, stopping by before he goes live. Appreciate that. I'm going to be on his channel tomorrow, showing off what I picked up with him in Dallas. Got this from another foreign collector that I've picked up several books from. But yes, this is Star Wars #1. So, in talking about your classification of variant versus edition, this is November of 1977. Now, does that mean it would be a variant or an edition?
It would still be an edition.
Okay.
Still be an edition. Just think of it like. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rob.
Go, Matt?
No. Go ahead.
So think of it like this: you have a book that come out in the U.S., right? Now, back then, you didn't really have the internet as prominent as it is now. So it's not like a simple click and they send it off. Just imagine if someone come from that country to DC or Marvel and say, hey, we want to print these books in our country. That's going to take a year or two. So you're thinking like, okay, so it came out. You get the original artwork. You have somebody translate it in their language, bound it up, and then put it out to their country or to their citizens as well. So with that being said, it would be considered an edition, just like the Bible almost, right? So you get it printed in different languages, but it's still the same Bible. So it wouldn't really be a variant. It would be an edition. So it's kind of like, you think of it as the literature side, not I'm going to change the cover and have the same story on the inside.
Yeah, and remember, this is the other thing that alters it. One of the reasons you can't call these foreign reprints is because through the simple act of translation, you fundamentally alter the story. That isn't a reprint, folks. Once it goes through an act of translation, which is an art form, that's an art form. Translating a story is an art form. And so by calling a foreign reprint, you're not doing any service to that translator who had to go in and translate that, especially when in a foreign language, they might not have words that correspond and don't have an American equivalent, right? So that story changes. Let's say in an American book, Superman says, you're a cotton picking whatever ninny. You know, I just watched Elf the other day. My son loves that movie, so we always watch it. What if there's no word for that in their language? They have to figure out a comparable word that might mean the same thing. But what if they pick a word that is underhanded or you know, just really kind of means something different? Maybe in that culture, that word is more of like a snake instead of a cotton picking whatever in it. Those aren't reprints, guys. Get that out of your head.
If you look at my screen, you can see I opened up my Wonder Woman 206 and opened it to the first page. As you can see, this is the Spanish, same exact art, only translated differently. So you can definitely see that. Yeah. That's why it's not considered a variant. It's literally considered an edition. Same
different
art.
Typefaces too. Often typefaces are different too.
Sometimes it might color better than the original. So this is definitely why you would really consider it an edition versus a variant.
Versus a variant or a reprint.
Yeah, and you know, talking about that, you know, like I said earlier, if you have this one book, this one character you love, this allows you to not have to settle for second best by figuring, okay, because once you start this collecting hobby, you generally just collect because you know that's what you do, right? But this allows you to dive deeper inside that same character. So this is
Woo!
Russian version of the first Harley Quinn in continuity, and just got that. It's actually still in the little baggie.
Don't you love that Russian typography? Any of the Russian books are absolutely stunning.
Yeah, and I had I got a Russian Hulk 181.
Oh yeah, that's a hot one that's been coming out. Yeah, that's freaking beautiful. If you're a 181 fan, how would you not want that? You know, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
But so those are the ones that I picked up, and oh, I forgot about this one, Marvel Premiere 15. Yep.
That's a beauty.
One of the interesting things, and me and Matt were talking about it before went live, was some of the that these are often repainted or redrawn. They're not the and so Matt, I've got a copy of Iron Fist 14. This is the English version, and this is the Spanish version. I've got both signed by Chris Claremont, and got them signed at the same time. But CBCS doesn't have a big enough case to fit this right now. But there are some nuanced differences between these two drawings. Now, looking at the with the naked eye, and especially with them separate, you really wouldn't see it. But Matt was pointing out like the jawline is different.
Yep, it's different. And then also look at Sabretooth's like tuft of hair right here on his arm. You can see that it's different from the original. It's redrawn. He made it kind of close. He made it at Lopez Espy is the artist of these. He made it kind of poofier. Notice that? So those are redrawn covers, and sometimes with those Mundi Spanish, they'll just, instead of doing it close like Lopez Espy did here, they'll completely change it up. So it just depends on that. And I mean, so if that's a key that you hunt, what a fascinating, I mean, the biggest key from the Spanish Mundi run that makes people go, wait, what was that? Would probably be the first Moon Knight. I mean, what is it? The Werewolf by Night
32.
32. Yeah, Lopez Espy changed it up. He made it so that Moon Knight seems more aggressive. You know, he's like running towards you or running.
He's changing the perspective. Instead of him running to the right, he's coming straight at you, like he's running like this. And he changed his whole costume. He's like red, blue, and white. So he totally changed it.
It's super cool, man. And that is, you know, I'm not saying that American collecting sucks. I'm not going to say that. What I am going to say, though, is I got bored looking at all the same books. And you know, the beauty of the foreign world is you're going to get to see stuff you've never seen. And for collectors that have been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years, don't you want to see stuff you've never seen before? I know I do. I get bored.
So this is what they're talking about.
There it is.
Look at that. What a change he did.
Oh, yeah, that's a big change because now I have an English version of this. And see here. So the other thing too is the price difference that if you just want something in your collection, you're not going to really read it, right? Because if you were reading it, you'd read a Marvel Milestone or the digital version, whatever. You probably wouldn't read a Werewolf by Night 32 just because it's so expensive. At that risk that you would damage it. You could buy the foreign edition of that comic book much cheaper, and it's really more rare than the English version. Just something to think about. But so why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and get started and talk about some of the things that newbie foreign collectors would need to look for, and some nuances that would help them find maybe that one particular character. Wonder Woman was mentioned earlier. Rob showed his Wonder Woman, and somebody said that Magic Lasso would be Jelly. Yes, Magic Lasso is definitely a Wonder Woman fan. And so if you got that one particular character that you like, well, let me show my screen first, and then we're going to move over to who did we say we were going to start with? You, Matt?
Rob.
Yeah, that's right. So Chrome tab, we're going to show.
And let me mention something real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rob is going to take us to a site that's going to help us. And it's weird. There's kind of a subculture within the comic collecting community. We have sayings, we have metaphors we use, we do all of that. But one of the big phrases that we use is you can't collect what you don't know exists. So the reason for that phrase is, what makes this part of the hobby a little different too is you've got to go educate yourself, which I think in the normal comic collecting world, not many people have had to do that for a very long time because all that information is out there. There's so much, we've seen a lot of the same books, read a lot of the same articles about all those books, but in the foreign world, it's like a big black hole in a lot of collectors' mind. Mm-hmm. So you can't hunt something or seek something or plan to collect something if you don't know exists. So the first problem for a guy getting into this is you got to figure out what exists. And that's what Rob is going to walk us through.
Yeah, so let me show these pictures of the can y'all see that now?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. So this is ASM 300. As you can see, there are quite a few ASM 300s, which has gotten to be a really pricey book. So going back to what I mentioned about the English version being a little out of people's price range, there's quite a few that you can choose from on the foreign edition side. If you got Star Wars fans, because Star Wars is all the rage right now, there is a lot of Star Wars that you can pick from. Obviously, the one that everybody knows about, the newsstand or the Whitman variant, or even is that the French Canadian right there?
That's the French Canadian.
And then you've got, of course, the direct edition, the 35-cent edition, but all these out here. So if you're a Star Wars guy and you want to collect Star Wars 1, there is plenty out there for you to run. So let's go over. Rob, you should be able to share your screen. What's going on, David Ewan, Discovery Bay, Mr. Unknown Comics Guy? Appreciate y'all showing up. And Mars brought up too that it's totally an art form, like the Pope's translation of the Iliad, considered an art form. So to my earlier point.
Yep. The translators got to be lauded, and like I said, calling these books foreign reprints is absolutely an utter disrespect to their art form.
Yeah, and so Sith Lordly, I promised I'd show you some Star Wars, so you just saw it, but we'll probably see some more. How about that? All right, so Rob, go ahead. All right. So let's see here.
All right. Okay, everybody can see my my screen, right?
Yep.
All right. I'll log in because I give them information as well. So, all right, we're going to go with
Spider-Man 300. We could go with Rob.
All right.
And this is Grand Comics database, the largest database of comic books in the world.
Okay, so now you see over here where it says series, story, and issue. We all know it's the start in the original run from 1963, the direct edition. When you click on that, you'll see the original artwork as you usually would. The newsstands right underneath, but then you'll see all of these flags. Of course, you got to learn your flags when you're on here, so you know what country it is. So there's a history lesson for you guys in this.
It'll be good in some kind of what do they call those where people compete knowing information?
Are you smarter than the fifth grader?
No, well, yeah, that. But I was going to say trivia, like trivia. All us board collectors would know all the flags of the world, man.
All right. So let's go with the Filipino. See it right here with Atlas Publishing. And you see the
Shit.
Filipino.
The most difficult one of all.
So as you can see, you see the original, you see the cover, and as you can see, you don't see that Spider-Man logo or the newsprint or the newsstand. I'm sorry. You'll see Atlas. So when you go to this one, you'll see what it looks like. A lot of times they don't show you the back cover, so you can make sure it's like complete. But you can definitely see the differences between the other books. So this is kind of one of those things you'll see to start where it is. And then, so a lot of times if you're on your phone and you're looking at it, you can click on it and do like a screenshot so you have that, committed to memory. But then, for everybody's favorite 300, the Lumo Ragno 91, as you can see, all of them don't say 300. All of them are different, 445, 190. You have, some of the reprints like the Venom versus Spider-Man. You have the Visionaries with no number. All of these editions here has that story in that book. So when you go to.
So to ask you a question about that, Rob. So you're saying it doesn't. So the cover might be different, but the inside story is the same if it's in this.
It's one of those things that Matt kind of said it before. He would say like you kind of call them oddities. The story is inside of another book, but you might not know it yet. Like they might not have used the original McFarlane art with the 300s in the back. It might be a inside panel or something like that. I think it's the what is it? The Brazilian that has the first splash page of the black suit on the front. The Abril.
The Abril, yeah. They used an interior page for their cover, and then not only that, you will also get foreign publishers that will package different stories in there. So you might have the Italian has the 299 and the 300 inside there. So it's got his cameo, Venom's cameo, and his first appearance. But another important thing, go to the Lomo Ragno again, Rob. Click on that. So one of the important things is you see you've got your title up there. If you're going to be searching these foreign books, you're not going to be searching for them using, I'm looking for the Italian 300 in English. No, you're not going to use that to do your research or to search for the books. You need to go up to the top. You need to copy and paste that title and that issue number. You either need to save it somewhere or you need to take directly from this page. You then go to another browser screen and you start your research and you start your hunt. Without the title, you're not going to find these books. And that's why this is very important to use Grad Comix database as your starting point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And what you were talking about, see, like this one right here, it's talking about, was that Spider-Man right there?
It was in the Spider-Man run that was in. And that's a Secret Wars something. I don't remember.
Yeah, so this is any X-Men 90 something.
Yeah, I don't know what else.
Yeah, it's got the Spider-Man stuff up there. So, that would be, where somebody that was looking for that particular book might get thrown off.
Yeah, they'd get thrown off because Mexico didn't do a Secret Wars in its own title. They combined it into the Spider-Man run. And foreign publishers will do that all the time, right? They'll always, because they're under no rules. One of the dirty little secrets of this part of the hobby is that the licensing departments of the American comic publishers, back then when they were making these deals, they really didn't care what the foreign publishers did. Why? Because pre-internet, if you're, like that Filipino 300, pre-internet, something that was printed in the Philippines might as well be on Mars. It ain't going to make its way back here to haunt the licensing lawyers of Marvel. All they give a shit was that the checks cashed. The American publishers used the licensing departments as ATM machines. That's all they were for. And so you have foreign publishers that will take DC villains and put them in Marvel books. You'll have foreign publishers that will put horrible graphic horror sex stuff in a Ghost Rider run, as in Denmark. You'll have foreign you'll just have them do whatever the hell they want. So they'll put DC. An interesting version of that is the Hungarian 300 has Superman on the title, for Christ's sake. They didn't give a shit about how this stuff, because this stuff was never supposed to come back to haunt them. Once the internet comes out, then let's go dig up all those skeletons and all those bodies that the licensing departments of the big companies put out there. That's what makes this so damn interesting too. Watch, go to the Hungarian, Rob. If it's in there, I'm not sure if it's in there.
I don't see the flag from
and Hungary. They might not have Hungary. See, and
this is one of those instances. This is one of those instances where you see what's out there, but then once you go down the rabbit hole of looking at these other countries, you'll stumble across the ones that aren't listed. If that makes any sense. So this is just a starting off point for those that want to know what's out there. Like, even if, like, say you want to do, what's another one? All right, let's do Savage She-Hulk, because I have the the best example of it might not even be on there. So once you come to the issue, where is it? Series issue. It's crazy. I gotta scroll a little bit.
We got somebody from Australia joining us here, so he's used to
all right. So
Australian different.
All right. So example like this one. This is the original She-Hulk one, Savage She-Hulk, original one from here. They have the French, which you have. What is this? This is Denmark
or Dutch. No, that's Dutch.
No. Yeah, Dutch. You have the Swedish, the lady. Or the red and white is Sweden.
Norway. Sweden is blue, I think.
Yeah, this one here.
The hard part about the Nordic countries is they're all kind of similar.
As you can see, the blue and yellow one down here. You see the red and white, and you see the blue and red.
Countries could be
I'm going to apologize now because, like I said, the ones I don't see in this list is like there's a second French, which I don't see. I don't see that one here. Like if I click on that one, as you can see with this one, they gave two versions of this one. There's a black banner behind this one, and this is blacked out. This just has the same story in it. It's just a later print. I was going through the other stories. Never mind. Go back. I'm sorry. So a lot of times when it comes to the listing of some of these, it definitely goes through. Go back. All right.
Yep. Australia did a lot of wonderful stuff. It's the very deep dark.
So when it comes to those issues that you don't see, this is where we kind of extend that olive branch to come to the FCC. So I'll go to Facebook real quick so you guys can.
Yeah, on the FCC page, we're really cool. Guys are really cool about helping guys figure out what's out there. So like say you got a big book and you go to the FCC page, you say, hey guys, can you help me? I'm just trying to figure out how many covers there are for this. And because remember, we have members there from all over the world. So, if it's a book that my buddy Bjorn in Sweden knows, he'll say, oh yeah, here's the Swedish version, or here's this version, or here's the Brazilian or whatnot.
All right, you guys can't see my screen, right?
Yeah, we can't see it.
So this is the FCC page. For those that want to know, this is exactly what you would type in to get here. You see Matt's beautiful face right there. You see him?
Beautiful. I thought handsome was what it was.
So This is so you want to really go down a rabbit hole. This is where you would get most of your education from. You get to see the Brazilian stuff from, certain collectors in that region. You can see our podcast that we're on now.
Whoa! I wonder who did that.
Yeah, there's a lot of times you might see stuff for sale that you say like, oh wait, there's Lethal Protector. I might want that one. Oh wait, this is
a lot of buying.
98. I want that one too. So this is kind of where you would scroll down and see some cool stuff. Doing some self-promoting here. So this is that rabbit hole you go down. Like everybody know NYX #3. This is which one is that one?
Is it German?
German. Trade paperback form. Everybody labels their stuff correctly. Everybody knows Luke Cage #1.
That's a good deal right there. Click on that, Rob. Click on that book. These Mexican Macs are tough. They're tough books to find, especially in decent condition. And that's a nice one. That's a nice book.
Yeah. I like the colors, the way they pop on that versus the American.
It's very pastel-y, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you were talking about the printer, publishers, right? Because there's some differences in publishers even for the same language, whereas in America we really, only know the Marvel, DC. So that's kind of interesting as well.
Yeah. They all decide to do it in a different way. The way they decide to do their titles. It's a cool group. Lots of good foreign books to show, lots of knowledge. And it's not the only foreign group on Facebook. There's another group called Global Comix. That's another good group. There's an international buy and sell group. And then you have to remember that all the different countries have Facebook groups for their collectors. So when you really get deep into this and you're looking for stuff, you got to go join the couple of Mexican comic collector groups, or Brazilian, or Portuguese, or Danish, or Nordic, or Italian. And while you're in there, you make friends. And while you're in there, you find sources. And while you're in there, you find deals.
Tomb of Dracula 1. This is Matt's post earlier this month.
One day I will find the Argentinian. It's a ghost. Can't find it. Yeah, it's sets are amazing because I call it the ultimate hobby hack, right? These books were never supposed to live together. They were never supposed to inhabit the same space. Again, we're pre-internet, right? We're pre-globalization. So when these books were printed for these countries, they were never supposed to exist in the same space. So as a collector, we are hacking the system. We are using globalization. We are using technology to force the issue. We're getting all these books that were printed at different times, in different countries, in different ways, that are packaged differently, that are this, that are that. And we're forcing them all to exist in one solitary space. And what I like to call geek gravity, it gets people's attention. You show people a big set, even people that aren't comic related, and they look at it and they go, holy shit, you've got, sorry, didn't mean to cuss. Holy moly, you've got that same book from 12 different countries around the planet. Of course, their first question is, did you fly there to get those? No, not at all. I use the tools at my disposal, and I'm hacking this shit. Oops, cussing again. I'm hacking this stuff, baby. I'm getting this stuff, and I'm doing stuff that 98% of the comic collectors around are not doing. And so, if you're into paths less traveled and you like to do stuff that not everyone's doing, this is the part of the hobby you need to be in.
So, but you can see this here. Like if you see my page, you see the Amazing Spider-Man 1 by McFarlane. They go that OB again, the Dutch cover on the bottom. And you see all the different versions of it across the back. So this is kind of where you would get your little, get your fix on what's out there. We'll get a feel for, what exactly you want to start on. Yeah. But it's addictive. I promise you. You'll probably visit the site maybe 4 or 5 times a day to see what's out there. So, I mean, this is kind of where you would get your education. You know, got South African stuff. Norman Scott Robinson, he runs Global Comico. So he's a professor that's collecting editions from every country he can get his hands on. So he's a
very knowledgeable guy. He's the guy that runs Global.
Yeah. 227 for you guys that love that cover. This is this is one of the toughest ones.
Lebanese. And Spine is on the right. Because they read Arabic
From
right to left.
Yeah. So this is the education you guys would need to really find out what you want to get into, what direction you want to go. Most of us here are pretty much knowledgeable of who knows what or who will give you the right information. So if you don't know something, don't be afraid to ask.
It's a cool group, man. It's a really cool group. And look at that Thai horror. Go back up to Ernie's post. Look at that Thai horror, man. I mean, if you're a horror junkie, that's some crazy stuff.
For y'all Red Sonja guys out there.
Yeah, look at that. Who wouldn't want that book if you're a Red Sonja fan? The Thai stuff is amazing just because of their language. And a lot of us collect, the books that don't have American equivalents, because a lot of these countries, particularly in the horror realms, a lot of these countries have some amazing horror stuff. That
be like equivalent to like pre-code horror, their horror.
All over, from modern all the way back into the golden age. You can find horror, indigenous horror from different countries that is pretty rad. Some golden age Brazil right there. See, there's another one. First Thor, right?
First Thor.
It's not in a Thor title. It's in Mexico's Cuentos de Bruja title, basically a horror title. Cuentos de Brujas means, I think it basically means witches' stories. I think Cuentos is stories.
I doubt there's many of those out there like that.
That's a very rare one. That's a very rare one. Especially signed by Stan Lee.
Right. Makes it even harder. See, here go that back cover of 300 on the Novedades, the 445. This one is this is not even a regular size. It's longer, but it's skinny. So it doesn't even fit like a regular bag and board. It's an awkward shape. You can't even put all these together because they're all different various sizes. You can't put them in the same box. So give you guys a leg up. Like if you want to join up, I am one of the mods on the page. So if you send a friend request or whatever, you only ask like 3 or 4 questions. Make sure you're on the right path, and one of us will definitely guide you on how to obtain some of these books.
Yeah, we love sharing with newbies.
Yeah.
Because
see, there you go right there. See that?
Look at that. Look at that.
So that's Shang-Chi, Natural Kung Fu.
Italian porno.
It's CV. That's a sticker. It's right here.
A lot of foreign books came with goodies, from medals to stickers, to posters to, you name it. Toys, watches, all kinds of stuff. And if they're not there, they're incomplete. So that can make that's something you have to educate yourself on.
So as far as grading, as a whole, and I know this is a very broad question, but as a whole, do foreign graders really lean towards foreign collectors lean towards the grading as much as American collectors have?
No.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Yeah.
I'm only saying that because if it's a high grade, a lot of times they will send it in to try to see what it will come back as. So you do have some that do, and there's some that just keep it raw because they, if it's a book you really love, you want to open it up. You want to be able to make that comparison. I wouldn't be able to show you guys the inside of that Navarro because if it was graded, I couldn't show you the interior art to show you that it's an edition. So it's always a personal preference.
Yeah, and I can see that because the colors are different in a lot of these foreign editions that I've seen, which is interesting to me. Because was it last time, Rob, that you and I talked, or Matt, maybe you and I talked about this, about the differences, the reason why one color was chosen over another in some of these foreign editions.
Yeah.
It could depend on the printing process. Sometimes
simply just didn't have the color.
A lot of foreigns are black and white on the inside. A lot of foreign companies don't have the high-end presses that we do. There could be all sorts of reasonings. Also, this is another reality, okay? Oftentimes, the foreign publisher would get the art, but they wouldn't get the color sets. So they had to wing it on their own. And we know this because we know a lot of people that had actually worked in the process. We know one of our friends from Greece was involved as a translator and was involved in a publisher. And for whatever reason, sometimes Marvel or DC would not send them the color separations. So they were at liberty to color them on their own. And so if they picked the color, and it might have been very different. So that's why you get a lot.
I clicked this one for an example, like where I said some of those oddities, like Batman 12. You got the Harley Quinn issue, you got the original cover. It's in U.S., but as you can see, it's inside of this book.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of those oddities, and if you kind of zoom in, you kind of see right there where you already see it's not an American price guide up there or anything like that. It's in another language. So from the looks of this is French.
Yeah, I think it's Italian. I think that's the Italian.
It's Italian. So with that being said, this is one of those oddities where you'll see like, all right.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. The other thing about the foreign part of the hobby is we're used to these black and white classifications, right? The black and white classification doesn't exist here because that book right there, that's a first Harley Quinn Adventures 12, yet it doesn't use the cover. So some collectors would say by missing the cover, it's missing a key fundamental part of the book. A collector might say, I don't consider that an Adventures 12, but then another collector will come around and say, no, it is. Just because it doesn't use the cover doesn't mean that it's not an Adventures 12. So what you find in this side of the hobby too is that there's not this black and white contrastions. There's a lot of gray in there, and you as a collector have to navigate that gray how you see fit. So that also makes it interesting.
Right. So to not drag it along, but here go another one right here. Another Batman Adventures 12. And sometimes these are harder to find in the US. You can just type in, Batman Adventures 12 and bam, a bunch of books pop up. But when you start typing in the countries they come in, yeah, it's not going to show up as often as you think. So you kind of hop on it when you see them. Otherwise, you'll be kicking yourself 3 years later. You'll find another one, but you'll be like, man, I'm waiting a long time to find it.
Yeah.
So it's a waiting game. It's a patient game. So it's not going to be that instant gratification. It's going to be a slight delay. But to not, drag this on anymore, I'm going to definitely let Matt do his thing to show you guys the other side of it. So if you guys want to join up, you go ahead and send a friend request. We have, people on hand to kind of get you guys in so we get the ball rolling and we can take it from there. So I'm going to start sharing that.
And there's no pressure, just go join the group and just lurk for a while. Just lurk for a while and see what people are putting up, see what people are selling and at what prices. And, you don't have to dip your toes into it until you're comfortable. And, but I will say, kind of like you were saying, Jason, you're right. You can find a lot of these foreign editions of some of these keys at drastically lower prices than the Americans. Now, that doesn't mean that as foreign editions get found out by more collectors, that prices are going to rise. There have been instances where foreign books in the same grade as an American have sold for more because an informed buyer knew how rare or tough that book was. But you don't always see that. So for at least right now, even if you get in, even what I would consider a little bit late in the game, because we've been doing this for a decade, There's still deals to be had, and you're still way ahead of the curve. You know, a decade ago, there wasn't even a curve. It was just a line, right? Now you're starting to see that curve, but you're still ahead of it because there's still like 90% of the hobby doesn't know or care or realizes these books exist.
Well, and that's a great point, because I think that, like TMNT 1 as an example, first print, huge, very expensive. So as it got more expensive, people goes to the second print, and now the third print. And now I've seen people go to the 4 print, which don't even have the exact same cover as the first print does. But because the first, second, and third print have gotten so expensive, they want to have that history in their hand, in their collection. And I think that that's going to end up pushing people, as they find out about foreign editions, over to the foreign side of the market.
Oh, yeah.
They've already let down on this got to have the same cover deal, but they don't want a reprint, right? So that the next step in my mind is the foreign editions. But
yep. I think you know how CGC changed the hobby at around 2000. It was just like a fundamental shift, and the hobby just sort of changed. I think foreign edition collecting has the opportunity to possibly do something similar. I don't think it's there yet. I think it's really far off, but I do think that there's a possibility we could hit a critical mass where foreign edition collecting becomes something where you go to a show and you see foreigns on every dealer's shelf. And when that happens, a lot of these guys are going to wish they had gotten into it a lot sooner than they did.
Yeah.
So this is definitely, if you guys are watching this now, this is definitely it's a starting off point. Like you said, there is deals to be had. You don't think for 1 second that you're going to come in and be like, oh man, everybody's onto it. It's going to be expensive. There's still some decent deals out there to be had. Some of the books I showed you today didn't cost over $40, if that. So, I mean, if you just go for what you love, you'll never feel like you're being cheated. If you want a TMNT 1, like you said, go to comix.org, type it in, see if there's other editions out there. There might be a Russian. There might be a Spanish. There might be a Japanese. You never know. So, I mean, what's the term, Matt? You can't collect what you don't know exists.
Yep, you can't collect what you don't know exists. So educate yourself first, and then have at it. Go crazy.
Well, and talking about that, you know, nothing subtracted from this book right here, but this right here is just as important in my collection because I see these all day long.
That's the point.
When do I see this? And so the other thing, when I like to go to shows, and, you know, COVID aside, like to, you know, talk to the artist, and I try to bring them a book that they don't always get to sign. And I asked Chris Claremont when I got him to sign the English and the Spanish version, how often do you sign a Spanish version? He said, not very often. So to me, it's a talking point. And again, you just don't see many of those. And I have a TMNT 1. It is a third print, which is relatively expensive anyway now. But yeah, I mean, that's another book that I would like to get a few foreigns of as well. So Matt or Rob, were you finished and heading off to Matt, or did you have anything else you want to add?
I'm gonna let him go because I know, like you said, once you get to the group, we can kind of guide you from there. This is just to get you guys into the hobby, to kind of start down that path.
All right.
Okay. Are you guys sharing my screen?
You got to click the button down the bottom.
You click the share screen
button. Yeah.
Oh, I got to do it. Okay, sorry.
And then I'll put it into the stream.
Oh, okay, cool.
He was asking the name of the group again.
Foreign Comic Collector Magazine Official Group. If you just look up Foreign Comic Collector Magazine Official Group, it'll come up in your groups tab.
If you, I think, Rob, if you can maybe drop the link to y'all's Facebook page or something, and then I'll see it on my end, and I can click to let it go through. That way, they can just click on the link if they're in the chat right now.
All right.
Okay, I'm in the share area, but it's grayed out. My share button is grayed out.
Yeah, it should down there at the bottom. You click on share screen, and then it'll pull up and ask you which screen you want to share.
Yeah, and I have entire screen, but I get a gray. Do I have to hit share audio too? I don't know.
Yeah, so you stay on with us.
Oh, okay. But it doesn't look like I have permissions to share. That's the problem.
I didn't give Rob any permissions either. So it should just come up, and then I click on it from here like I did for his, and it show it.
Yeah, it's not showing it. Here, let me try again. So I'm going to share screen. It says your entire screen. Okay. I have to click on it.
Yeah,
there it is.
Yeah.
Can you guys still hear me?
There we go.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. So we're at eBay, right? So let's start out with easy stuff. eBay has eBay versions for a whole bunch of different countries. So down, if you go on the main screen of eBay, you can go down to your eBay sites and you can see all the different countries. Let's go to Italy. Okay. Now, I'm going to put in there Rogno91. So that'd be the Italian 300, right? So in here, you'll see the different Italian 300s. All kinds of different ones. They've increased in price. Look at that, 80 euros, 50 euros, 125 euros, 250 euros, 100 euros. These books used to be able to be found for 30 euros tops. But since Americans have been throwing money at Italian sellers, these books are now going for a lot more. Now, let's click on it. Okay. Now, this issue looks like it's got a little problem in the lower corner. Not a bad issue. 80 is still a lot. See right here, this is their watch. So one of the first tips is when you click on their watch, I'm going to, let's see. I hope I remember my password. I haven't had to put it in it forever.
Oh, Lord.
Let's see if that did it. Must have not worked. Hold on. It's giving me problems.
You make sure you do it in English.
Well, it's English. Maybe I need to put in my. Oh, it's trying to make me put in. Okay, that's fine. I think it sent me a. Let me go to a different one. Let me retry it. I think I was in the part where it's trying to get me to. Here. I should have thought to log in. Okay, there it is. Okay. So if you want to watch it, and I think I already watched it because I clicked on that button. Yeah, I think I'm already watching it. So I logged in with my account on Italy's eBay. So I should be able to go back to eBay. So I'm in Italy right now. Should be able to go back to American eBay, go to my watch list, that's an American one, I think, or no?
It's American priced.
Yeah, that might be the American one. Where did the one just go that I watched? Okay, let's go back to Italian eBay.
It's right there down the bottom. The recent viewed.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll try it on this one. See if it did it.
You know what it is? You know what it is, Matt? It might not be if they don't ship to the US, they won't let you save it as a favorite either. That's something else to jot down, guys. A lot of times the countries don't send to the US. You would have to get like a mediator to do it.
There it is.
I mean, that's something that the group can help you with.
Okay, I found it. So I watched it. I'm back in American eBay. Now I know exactly how much it is in American dollars. So it does the currency conversion for you. Our euro is not as, up against the dollar. The euro has a little more value, so it's about $100. Then this also will tell you on the shipping. European 15, approximately 1835. This does have international shipping. So shipping and handling, United States, $15 isn't bad. So the first trick is in Italian eBay. You might not understand the currency. You might not read Italian, so you can't tell Speedy Zone is shipping. There's going to be all this information here that eBay is going to translate for you, right? You might be struggling if it's an auction. You might not understand their time frame. So that's the first thing. When you're in foreign eBays, you can watch them, and then they'll be in your watch zone, and a lot of that information will be with you. Now it won't translate some of the descriptions because that's going to still be in Italian. But that is one way that it can help you. This isn't a bad price. That book's not too bad looking. It looks like there's some damage up there. Looks like, at $100, that spine looks pretty bad. There's a little bit of roughness there. So, that's how you would hunt an Italian eBay or Italian 300. That's one of your tricks. Now, this trick can be used for basically any country. So all you would do is you'd go back to your normal eBay, go back down to your countries, and let's say we're going to do the Netherlands. That would be right there. Now in the Netherlands, we know that Junior Press was the publisher, and they still used the name Spider-Man. They just called it something else. Despactula. Now, if I actually had, there's the second black costume. If I actually had, I was from Grand Comics Database, I'd have the issue number too. But just in the spirit of time, I'm just going to throw that in there. So then you would go in through here. Same deal. You see a book that you like. Look at these cheap prices. The Dutch don't price their books very high. They're actually pretty reasonable. But, not really a lot here that's that interesting, right? Not really that interesting. So we got a problem. You can go to the Dutch eBay, but there's actually a place that sells Dutch books that a lot of Dutch collectors use, and that place is actually called Katawiki. So Katawiki is basically where a majority of the Netherlands collectors actually what is it? StreamYard is sharing your screen. Thing right there. Okay. And you can become a member at Katawiki. If I remember correctly, I am. Okay, I'm logged in. And one of the things I like to do is if you're American, you could set it so that it's in English. So mine is in English. And then, you've got your different categories. And what you got to do is find the comics section, which can be a little tough. I'm trying to remember how to do that.
It was right there. You just clicked off of it. It said, it said books and comics.
Okay. I haven't been here in a while.
Right there to the right.
There we go. U.S. comics and original art. But we're not interested in that. We're interested in comics in Dutch. And so here you're going to find Dutch comics. There'll be buy it nows. There will also be auctions. And what you would do is you would come to this comic section, and there is a way to search for specific books. Oftentimes the Dutch will sell entire collections. Here is a grouping of Dutch Spider-Man.
See that Spectacular 64, the first Cloak and Dagger. You see that one up there?
Oh, yeah, over here. Hold on.
Other way.
Yep. See, there's a key right there that someone would probably want.
And this is why we say you got to put those covers to memory. So when you see it, you definitely know what you see when you see it.
So far, that looked like one of the bigger keys. So he's selling a collection, and he's having people bid on it. Here on the right side, you see your bidding. And so that would be a way, to find some cool Dutch books. So one of the first things, I don't know if you see up here, I have a few, if Grand Comics database doesn't have the information you need, then you have to go to foreign databases. This would be a foreign database. It's a Nordic foreign database. So you have Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and within here you would have to check this out. Google Translate through Chrome can change it into English, and you can at least read some of it. So this is another way that you would research. It's got its own forum. It's got its own buy and sell. So you can buy books here as well. So the key is, I guess, is whenever you find these foreign auction sites and foreign databases, I'm going to take you to another one. So like our Australian friend was in there, right? There is a database for Australia. It's called Aussie Reprints. So let's say you're wondering if there is an equivalent. Let's go with Batman 227, right? I'm going to look up at Aussie Reprints Batman. I have all kinds of different ones. I know that Batman was done by Federal, but the one I'm looking for is the Murray series. which is in the late 70s, early 80s. Okay. Now, within here, say you were looking for that classic cover. Available issues. You know, just so much you can go into this database. And you can search for the gallery. Let's see if I can find them all. So for this particular title, let's go to here, cover gallery. These are much older. So there ain't going to be a 227 in there quite yet. Or maybe so. Look, there's our Neil Adams. Look at that. Look at that key. Well, if you were wondering about the 251, you would come to the Australian database and you would look it up. You would get the name, Superman Presents Tip Top 114. You even get the date. You get all the info you need. I'm guessing the 227 is probably on this page. Boom. There it is. So now you know that it's Superman Presents Tip Top 98. That is the Australian 227. So then what do? So then from there you go, I've got the info. I've educated myself. I'm going to go back to eBay. I'm going to remember that that's Tip Top 98. I'm going to go back to eBay. And I'm going to go to the land down under. Australia. I'm going to put in tip. Come on. Tip Top 98. We know it's a KG Murray. We can put Murray. I'm not going to spell it. I'm a horrible speller. I don't know if you guys figured that out yet. Saying that it hasn't found any. Probably because it's thinking of the old Tip Top. So oftentimes in Australia, you could put Australian or Australia because the sellers there will list it like that. Nothing. So if it's not going to bring up 98, I'm going to go Tip Top Australia, KG Murray. I'm finding shit.
That's not one of those books that's going to be readily available either.
And that's the weird thing. In Australia, a lot of these Australian editions were not loved. There's something called the foreign indigenous bias, I'm just going to look up. I know federal. Okay, so these are the federal editions. Federal was another publisher in Australia. And so you're going to be able to find a lot of these federal versions of these Batman or DC. Sometimes, okay, so if you need to get even more generic, you can go Australian comics. And you're going to find a lot of the older Australian stuff, but you're going to find a lot of the newer Australian stuff. There's a federal Thor.
There's an Avengers 1. There's it's a Daredevil 1 in Federal too.
Oh, this is the Horowitz with the cover missing. Rob, look at that.
Yeah, it's actually not bad.
How much did they ask? Were they asking for that?
It's 1900 Australian, so it's probably like what?
Wow.
3.
Yeah, that book's an amazing book, but without the cover, you wouldn't really know it. Yeah, so these are all Australian books. That might be an Australian price variant right there.
So talking about without the cover on there, as far as the foreign collector community, because a lot of American collectors don't, they really shy away from the coverless, even though you can get reproduction covers.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a Daredevil guy and Daredevil 1 was your book to have, and that's a good deal, would you get a reproduction cover or even just leave it like that?
I would get a reproduction cover because it's so freaking awesome. Watch, let's go. Let's see if I can find the Horowitz real quick. So we're going to do Rob's trick again. You don't even have to. You can do it from Google itself. Daredevil 1. And you go Daredevil 1 edition. Let's see if they've got the Horowitz connected. They got the Yappa. They got the Newton. So let's look at the Yappa real quick. Well, that's Daredevil 2. Looking for the one. Oh, well, I think you can go. That one might not use the cover. Yeah, it didn't use the cover. Bummer. So we're going to go back to where we were at. Let's see. Okay. The Newton used cover. So there's the Daredevil 1 Newton. Now, this should have a poster in it. Okay. So now that we know it exists, we're going to go back to Australia on eBay. We're going to put Daredevil 1 Newton because you know of the publisher. And unfortunately, it's not there because these books are rare even in country. And that's, that's where you got to really do the hunting. This isn't easy. If this was easy, everyone would be doing it. And I do not see the Horowitz connected in here. Isn't that crazy, Rob? They don't have the Horowitz connected in there. So in that case, I might go to see if I can find, I don't know if I spelled that right. Let's see if we can find the publisher.
And this is that one side of where you definitely have to depend on the community. You have to, you're going to learn about currency. You're going to learn about time zones. And your best deals is always first thing in the morning on their time. So if you want something in Australia, it's a 12-hour or 13-hour difference. So like right now is what, tomorrow morning? At morning. So I mean, we get ready to go to sleep. They're already up and working. So you got to keep that in mind too. Someone's in Japan, it's 13 hours ahead. So when you send a message to somebody that's in those countries, be mindful of the time zones too, because they might be asleep and you're up. So it's like a 24-hour turnaround to see like if they respond to you or not. So it's kind of a patient game too.
Yeah, totally. You got to know the time zone. So I just looked up Newton. So this is just an Aussie publisher. So now that you know the publisher, you can go in and go, hey, that's a classic cover. Who doesn't like Steranko Cap Hulk, right? If you really like it. Yeah. Let's see if it's got, I'm thinking that it doesn't have the poster. And see, this is where you got to be careful. So let's look at his Newton, Australia, condition, no dust jacket, has no markings. Advertised free color poster not present. Do you see that? What that means is that book is incomplete. Some Australian kid took the poster out. So with that knowledge, see if he takes offers. He's got a make offer button. So then with that offer, with that knowledge, you make an offer and you go, hey, dude, love it for $70, but it doesn't have the poster. Will you take 40? So that's one of the tricks. Those are the tricks. I'm going to take you to another database, our neighbor to the south. So this is Balde Comics. So Balde Comics is Mexican. So let's say you were hunting for a 227 Mexico and you didn't know if they did it. So there's two ways you could do it at Balde Comics. You could go by your DC. You go the DC route, which is probably what most people would do. You would go to there. You would look for 227. It's going to be on this page somewhere. There it is right there. So there's the American 227, and there's your Mexican equivalent. It's going to give you the number 591, and it's going to give you the title, which in Mexico was Batman. And sometimes he will also give you the date. Sometimes the date is there, sometimes it's not. So there you go. Now you know what it looks like. So that's what this is all about. You can't collect what you don't know exists. So if you're going to be into this part of the niche, you've got to find out what exists. And like Rob said, there's multiple ways to do it. You can go to the different databases.
So,
Uh-oh.
what was the last one? How do you spell that?
Which one?
The Baldy Comics.
Oh, Balde Comics. B-A-U-L-D Comics. B-A-U-L-D-E-C-O-M-I-C-S. And then if you're looking for Spider-Man in Mexico, that is Spidermex. And that would be Spidermex. So they're two separate sites ran by the same dude. If you want me to show, I stopped sharing already, but yeah. So, so that's basically for your newbie, your new guy coming in, that's how you're going to do it. You're going to find out what exists by going to Grand Comics database. It's not going to have everything, but it gives you a place to start. Then you're going to join like-minded groups in social media. Also on Instagram, the hashtag Foreign Comics brings up a lot of different dudes. And then from there, you're going to start hunting this material on foreign eBay sites, foreign auction sites, and you're going to start learning about them at foreign database sites. Once you have that knowledge, then you can start going out there. And, there is no overstreet. So, there is no hard guide. The hard guide exists in Robert's noodle, in my noodle, because no one has taken the time to write it down. So if you think that something looks high, sort of like what you thought that book looked high to you, Jason, your gut was saying that seems a little high. Go with your gut, and then go and go to the group or go to me or Rob or someone and say, hey, I got this book I'm looking for. What do you think? And we'll give our honest opinion. I think it's high. I think it's low. That the reason that's higher here in America is because you're paying an American premium on eBay or whatever. Because there is no guide. The guide exists in Robert's brain and my brain and other collectors that have been doing this for a long time's brain. So the only way you're going to figure that out is the cost. And to speak to Robert's point, buying opportunities are rare. Did you notice we went on to Australian eBay and there weren't any tip tops? There weren't any tip top KG Murrays at all? Big fat zero? That's kind of crazy, right? Because as an American collector, you're used to seeing hundreds of, especially like Copper Age books. You book it in Spider-Man 300, you're going to have 500 listings or something. That doesn't live in this world. So another thing you got to do is you got to say, and I tell guys this all the time. So guys will come to me and go, I'm interested in that 129, but I think 400 is too expensive. What do you think? And I'll go, well, I honestly think it's probably worth more in the 325 range, but we never see that book come on. Let's say it's the Greek 129. I'll say I haven't seen one for sale in a year. So how much is that other 100? If it's overpriced by $175, how much is your year or 2 years or 3 years of time worth to you? If you've got the money and you want the book, shit, I've overpaid for foreigns out the wazoo. I've underpaid as well, but I've overpaid out the wazoo. And I knew I was overpaying, but I didn't give a shit because I knew I didn't have a buying opportunity. I haven't had not even one buying opportunity in 6 months. So that's worth it to me. So the thing that the American collectors have to kind of, just traditional comic collecting have to wrap their heads around in a way is that values, because there is no overstreet, because buying opportunities can be so rare on certain rare foreigns, it's still flying, collecting by the seat of your pants. this part of the hobby isn't for sissies. If you're looking to have a guide, an Overstreet or a GPA or some other kind of overarching scaffolding of history of prices and all this stuff, you're going to be in the wrong part of the hobby. You've got to learn to take risks. You've got to learn to be patient. And sometimes, a good friend of ours, Rob, says his name's Ken Worthy. He's one of our mates from the UK. And he always says when he runs across hard to find books, he might say, I thought it was too expensive. I didn't really have the money at the time, but I bought it because I'm not going to see it again. Buy it. That's the thing. He's broken it down to a simple. He's like, it's a rare book. You need it for your set. You haven't seen one in a long time. Buy it. Now I don't figure out ways to buy it. Figure out a way to pay for it later.
Well, and I know one thing that was mentioned earlier was grade as opposed to the American deal. A lot of people are grade hungry for that 9.8. Another part of this is shipping cost. So in looking at the eBay, whether they're not, they will ship internationally. And then what is that international shipping cost? Now, something interesting to me that I think both of you guys mentioned earlier was like a consortium of sorts that, basically, hey, I'm going to be ordering something from this guy and I'm getting something from this guy. So kind of let's share shipping cost and kind of pull together with that. That way everybody's not eating one big giant shipping for one book.
Yes. That is also, that is also another part of the hobby here in this world. That's cool. Is that unlike in the American side of the hobby, it can be very dog eat dog, right? Everyone's being quiet. They want to, there's not a lot of, everyone's kind of out for themselves. Our part of in the foreign part of the hobby, it's not so like that. We need to help each other because if we don't help each other, we won't find the books. So if you've got, let's say I find, like I saw that 300 that looked pretty nice for 80 euros. What if I have some other friends that are interested in some Italian editions? I'm gonna look through that seller's stuff, and if I see some of those books that they have, I'm gonna say, hey, dude, that book you need is being sold by the same guy. Let's connect. Let's get that stuff hooked up. Or through the page, we have a lot of foreign sellers on the page. It's almost second nature to them now. So they'll go, okay, so you're buying these 3 books from me. Well, I got 2 or 3 other guys in the States or in Canada or wherever that are buying too. Can we just combine all that shipment and we'll ship it to one person that we trust, and then that person will spread them out. So that's the other kind of neat thing about this part of the hobby is that friendships really, really matter, because without your friends, you either won't find the books that you need. I'm always looking out for books that Rob needs or other people need, and we help each other. And that was so refreshing, because when I was, doing just the normal collecting part of the hobby, that kind of dog eat dog competition, no one's helping each other, no one's willing to give tips on stuff. If they think they're going to spec on a book, they're going to buy as many copies as they can and not tell anyone or whatever. I was getting tired of that. I found true camaraderie when I got into this side of the hobby.
So Rob, I saw you put, there you go.
No, when he was talking about community, that that beautiful German foil Spawn 9 in the back, that was one of the parts of the community that we talked about. Like, I saw somebody post that in another group that he was selling it, and then he turned around and said, you know what, I want good comic karma, sent it to Matt for free, and he has it on the wall. Now, we already know that book is expensive because it's aluminum foil, and he was looking for that book, and I knew that he was looking for it. And then when I saw it, I was like, hey, Matt, this guy has this book. But then I was like, but guess what? He's sending it to you. So it's definitely, it's a strategy,
awesome.
It's not a quid pro quo. It's just the love of comics.
This is the Angela. This is the German Angela variant. This is the embossed foil variant. They're not foil, it's embossed. So it's got texture to it. And as you can see back there, I'm building the first Angela set. And I've been looking for one of these for a long time. And yeah, because Rob saw it and Rob talked to the guy, I ended up with this free. So it was, I mean, you can't beat that kind of. There's just so much cool comic karma also in the community, and I think it kind of lends itself to the fact that this is hard, and because there is no Overstreet, because there are no guides, you've got to actually look up to some of the old schoolers to help you and help you find this stuff. Jason, I sent you a bunch of Valiant Italian links the other day just because I happened to be on Italian eBay and we had talked and you had told me you're a Valiant head. I said, let me send these to Jason. Like it's just that's just what's so cool, and I love it. And just like all communities, we have a few villains. There are a few villains out there, but for the most part, everyone is just wonderfully happy to be doing this stuff and excited and I don't know, man. I can talk glowingly about this side of the hobby for hours. I don't think you guys want me to, but I'm crazy. I'm crazy. Ask Rob. I'm crazy.
Well, Rob, no comment on that.
He knows. He knows.
So
yeah, sometimes you guys just take the mic from him.
Yeah, that's right. Well, guys,
but I mean, overall, like I said, when it comes to chatting to the price, I'm sorry.
No, there's a lag there. So go ahead.
No, I was saying, like, one thing I wanted to talk about with shipping is that when you think of shipping, don't really worry about the price. Even if the shipping is higher than the book itself, you kind of just factor that all in together. Because when it comes down to it, if you start thinking about shipping too much, you just be like, do I really want it? But I was like, but you got to remember, it's coming from halfway across the world. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be the typical media mail $3.95 or whatever. You got to already have it in your mind that they might not wrap it like an American ship. It might come in a nil envelope. I got a package right here. Like this one came from Romania.
Yeah, Rob, we're getting a bad lag. I think all your kids are on Netflix or something.
So, got stamps in it. And, this guy was already familiar with the group, so he already knew that he came in the Pampers box. He taped it up, and it was in here with no bag and board. So it's literally just bubble wrap. So already have your mindset on it might not be in the best condition. It happens. So you guys caught most of that. Condition is always the one thing that everybody's put up on. Shipping is going to be just kind of cross your fingers and hope we get there.
Well, that's one of those things that Amazon has built us to think, right? That shipping's free, and if it's anything but free, it don't matter if I'm paying $10 for the object. Shipping's free. No, it's not really free. There's nothing free. You're paying for it somehow, and with foreign editions, you're paying for the ability to get something that you would never be able to get otherwise. Period.
Yeah.
So,
exactly. And but that brings us to the American eBay premium. When you buy a foreign book off of eBay, and you can, a lot of recent collectors of foreigns have started putting foreigns on eBay, and there's foreign sellers too, but on American eBay. But when you buy a book on American eBay, you're kind of paying American premium because that person that bought that book had to go through the trouble to get it shipped. Had to go through the risk of getting through customs without getting sliced. That American seller in America is going to package it correctly and it's going to go right, and it's probably not going to be damaged. And so you pay a premium for that. So that same book so for instance, that Italian 300 that the guy was wanting basically $100 for, that same book, the person that was buying that book to flip on American eBay, they had to go through all the risk of that book getting damaged here. Then it gets here. So they might throw 20, 30, 40, 50%, or even double it. That book might be $200 on American eBay, but you're going to get it in 5 days. If you get it shipped priority, you're going to get it in 5 days. You're going to know that it's going to be shipped properly. When you buy a lot of these books from different sellers internationally, you don't have those guarantees. Right. So there's a lot of risk. There's horror stories of books never showing up, books getting ripped, sliced in half by customs looking for drugs, packages being opened somewhere along the way and certain books stolen. Those horror stories do exist. They do happen. So
the case in point was that Russian book that you got. We know the guy that was selling those, right? So he had to get those from Russia. He bought a bunch of them, and he was like, they didn't know how to ship. He said they came with no bag and board. They just came in a manila envelope, a stack of them, and he figured out of this stack, I'll probably get 4 or 5 that are in decent shape. The rest of them probably be beat to crap. So it's the roll of the dice with people buying it from outside of the country. And then when you get here, you'd be like, oh, man, this is in decent shape. I might can get it graded or whatever and get a decent price for it if I want to flip later on or trade with somebody. It's a lot of trading going on. So it's always, that's the part of the hobby that, I fell in love with, was the trading part. I could trade a bunch of books for one that I really want. Or someone's been looking for a South African. I'll trade that in and get a bunch of other little mini keys for that one. So it's definitely the buying opportunity and trading. And there's a lot of that going on. So this is that part that reinvigorate that I want to get back into it again. So this is that breath of fresh air that people have been looking for.
The community too.
Yeah, and there's a convenience fee, right? I was talking with a comic shop owner last week, and we were talking about people, they come in, and we all were programmed to haggle with the price. We assume that the price is up higher than what it needs to be for them to get the margin to run their business. And so we just normally haggle. This is what we do. But we'll go into a convenience store and buy a 20-ounce Coke for how much nowadays, and not think nothing about it, knowing it's 2 to 3 times the price what it is at a grocery store, because it's the convenience fee. And so that's kind of what you were talking about with the American eBay. These people have taken the risk. They're trying to recoup some of their stuff, some of their risk back, and fees, PayPal, so on and so forth. So it's a convenience fee, just like a Coke at a store.
Exactly, because Rob's gone through this. A lot of the foreign sellers, they don't use PayPal, man. When was the last time you used Western Union or did a bank transfer? I had to do a bank transfer to Lebanon. You know why? Because the Lebanese currency is dropping like a rock. So because Lebanon has got so much crazy internal strife, the Lebanese currency is, it's losing its value in comparison to the dollar. Like, shoot, man, it's scary how fast it's dropping. So you can't even use Western Union there because Western Union forces the currency conversion. So some countries force the currency conversion. So the only way that the seller could keep his money in dollars, I had to do a bank transfer. It cost me $50 to do a bank transfer. And so I had to go into my bank. I had to do all this mumbo jumbo, all this stuff just to get this book. And so that is going to be more complicated. And that speaks also to our whole desire for convenience and ease. As people that buy comics on American eBay, this world doesn't have that necessarily. You're going to have to figure out. One time I traded records for a Mac 129. So the Mexican Spider-Man 129, the seller didn't take PayPal, didn't want Western Union. He said, I'm a record collector, and I got some records out of Portugal that I need. I said, oh, really? He's like, yeah, but I don't know, something was wrong with his eBay account. He couldn't use it, or it was frozen or something. I don't know. So what I did was I said, well, send me the records you need. He sent me the records he needed from Portugal or Brazil or wherever it was. I don't remember where it was. I ordered them. They came to me. I then packaged them up, shipped them to him. Then he shipped my book. But I took a risk because there's no payment processor behind the scenes protecting me, right? That guy could have taken the records and said, oh, thank you, Mr. American. Yeah. I love your stuff. You're not going to get the book. Screw you. So we do take risks, and sometimes you get burned, but not all the times. You'd be amazed how often. I would think that there would be more of that than there is, but most of the time, I mean, Rob, have you had a bad experience with a book either getting lost, not showing up, damaged, or even stolen from since you started?
Knock on wood, I haven't. I've had the mail held up. I've had it, it's undeliverable, return to sender. We'll come to find out they were just holding on to it for another day, then they stick it in my box the next day. Like the Filipino 300, that was lost for like a week. And then next thing you know, it was in my box immediately after. So yeah, I was pulling my hair out. That's probably why it's none up here, but it's all here. So I mean,
you were sweating bullets on that. Jason, the Philippine 300 is a monster. For the guys that build the 300 set, that book gives them nightmares. I mean, they literally will cry. They'll have nightmares, wake up in cold sweats. It is the rarest Spider-Man 300 edition in the world. At one point in time, we only knew of about maybe 12 or 13. Now, more have come out of the woodwork. Mm-hmm. I bet you that number is probably closer to 30 or 40 now. But when you think about Spider-Man 300 and how at any time you can go on eBay and find hundreds, to think that there's under 100 that we know exist of a 300, that's a big deal. So for Rob to be worried that book was lost, that'd be like, in thinking about it in the retrospect, that's a book that's as rare as some of these hardcore Golden Age keys. Mm-hmm. So that's a big freaking deal.
So if I really had to put my finger on the way this style of collecting is, you got to think about Golden Age books, golden or platinum, because you'll see it, you'd be like, oh, I recognize that cover. But then you start looking for it, you'd be like, man, this book is harder than I thought. Some of the countries that we thought would be plentiful of, they don't show up. Like the Cabanas Tell Us Anything. The Captain America book, Black Panther 1 or whatever it is, they don't show up as often as they usually do. So, I mean, here it is. I'm Matt, 3 years in now? And there's some books I've only seen one of or two of. The 300 showed up maybe 3 times. And, I mean, it might have been just trading hands or another friend gave to another friend. But as far as a transaction goes, I've only seen it twice. And one of them was my transaction. So it's not scaring anybody away from it. It's just the instant gratification isn't here.
No,
you really you gotta have Zen-like patience just to sit here and say, like, you know what, I'm willing to wait because I really want to finish this set. Like, to be honest with you, I didn't think I was gonna find this one. I had to email a guy that's not a part of the group that had the entire run, and he gave me these and the bondage covers, and I think he was selling for like maybe $10 a piece. So I said, you know what? Just give me the 8 books. It came to like $112, and it got to me within like 2 weeks. So this was worth it. So that's why I was like, if you go on eBay right now, a US 206, I've been looking. There is none. But to find this one, this isn't something readily available. So it's always the buying opportunity. I won't say that you can't get it. I won't say that you'll never see it. It's just your eyes have to be peeled and be ready to pull the trigger when it does happen.
Yep. And that gets us back to Ken saying, you see it, buy it, especially with the rare stuff.
Well, and, think about the thrill of the hunt of, back before the days, that Al Gore invented the internet, right? When we had to have our local comic shop or, mail order from Mile High or something. And, the thrill of finding that one book that you've been looking for and laying hold of it and buying it. And then you're like, you've got that story with that book. So it's not, it's just as much about the art. It's just as much about the story, but it's about you, how you got that book. So think about with foreign editions more so because, hey, like Matt, the story you told about the records, you know, you had to buy the records, you bought it, you know, they don't never go away, right? And so, and it doesn't never get old telling that story either. You know, if I buy a book off of eBay,
You don't think twice.
Nobody, you know, oh, I bought it off eBay. Okay, big deal.
I'll never forget that Mexican Spider-Man 129 because I had to jump through multiple hoops to do it, and you know, and I was scared. I was like, this guy's gonna rob me. He's gonna get these wonderful records from Portugal, and I'm just never gonna see it. Luckily, the guy was totally honorable, and you know, and that's, I think that sometimes we think, oh, you know, there's a lot of people looking to take advantage of Americans, and maybe there is, but for me, in my experience, almost I'd say I've had maybe 3 bad experiences.
Yeah.
Well, most of them are wonderful.
Well, in America, we're kind of jaded because there's so many people in America that are that way.
Yeah.
And so if you've seen the map back here, these are the places that I've traveled. And so when the pins, so like when I went to Canada, for example. So, you know, what I like to do when I go to places like that is get past the touristy area, right? See real life. When I went to Cuba, I called a guy on the street. He spoke English. He took me to the poorest of poor areas, and we talked about real life in Cuba. Okay, what he really thought about Fidel, who was still alive at that time. So, you know, that kind of experience. And what I found, just my personal experience, is these people anybody loves talking about themselves and what they like. And these people are just hardworking people. And really in America, we're largely spoiled, right? Because even our poor people are richer than their, you know, rich people. So I think we're just kind of jaded in America to believe that everybody over there's that way. Again, that's a broad brushstroke that I'm painting. I'm just saying what I've experienced in dealing with people when I have been to these other foreign countries. So it's really.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them too are just fascinated that American, you know, because for the longest time, a lot of collectors didn't know of any collector outside of their country that was seeking this material. So when you go to these foreign sellers and sources in these countries and you go, that is cool, I want it bad, what do you need for it? I think that actually it gives a lot of these collectors some pride and go, hey, our local indigenous output is important. And it's got historical importance, it's got cultural importance. And these guys, and you know, and now it's totally international now. You know, we've got members in our group from all over the world that build sets and hunt books. So it's been going on for a long time. But I think that for a lot of these sellers, when they find out that you know, other people outside of their country value these books, I think it actually creates a sense of pride in them, and it makes it more likely that they're going to be excited to deal with you and get the book to you and build a relationship. And that's another part of that I'd like to get to before we finish our show, is that one of the most beautiful things of this part of the hobby too is the friendships we've made with people outside my borders, my country's borders. I have become a global citizen because of this hobby. You know, Rob will be the first to tell you, we've got friends that we talk to almost every day from Sweden. We got our buddy Bjorn in Sweden. We got our buddy Peter in Germany. We got our buddies Victor and Sky in Brazil. We have friends and sources and contacts and people that we care about all over the world. So when things happen outside of the world, when a typhoon goes through the Philippines, I care because I got friends there. When there's horrible flooding in Serbia, I care because my buddy Rochko is there. If crime is going crazy in Brazil and certain countries, I care because my buddy Victor and his family are there. The cartel dumps a bunch of heads on the streets of Monterrey, Mexico. I worry about my friend in Monterrey, Mexico. I have skin in the game now outside of the world. I'm not just an American citizen, I'm a global citizen. I care and I research for that stuff. And for me, on a personal level, that is another one of the beauties of this part of the hobby, is that it has awoken me to the rest of the world, basically. And for too much and too long, I think at least Americans were kind of just stuck in our nationalistic bubble of what's happening in our borders. And this is a wonderful way to get outside of them.
And to touch on that, like the whole map thing, I definitely was with you on that, because as of late, I've been marking off which country I get a book from. And I have to say, thus far, I've touched every continent except Antarctica. And I think that's something. But I have to get one from from Iceland. That's probably the only thing I don't have yet, is the Iceland book.
Oh yeah, and Iceland, some of the Iceland books are
so
impossible.
It's definitely
Well, I mean, the story behind the book, because like, think about an American collecting date stamps. That's the story. Or let's say the Mark Jewelers inserts. Okay, we know kind of where those books have been. Or even the paint on the top, that they used to spray to know where to ship those out to. So we know that this was over on this side or this was on that side. The 35-cent or the price variance, where they would test markets before they raised the prices on all comics. All that's the story behind that book. And think about that foreign edition. It's been all over the world. And, you got that story with it. But we are over 2 hours, and I do appreciate you guys for hanging out and showing the rope, not only to me, but for anybody that watched it live or on the rewind. So before we get out of here, I'll give y'all a chance to shout out either what you're doing on YouTube, what you're doing on Instagram, Facebook, and that way they can reach out to you if they want to get more information on this.
For sure.
Matt, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram under DEFINE999. Also, I co-host a show with John Z from CBSI. We do a show called Global Comic Safari. Robert is a frequent guest on that show. We love having him on there. And then the Facebook group, Foreign Comic Collector Magazine official group. My Instagram, DEFINE999, and then of course Global Comic Safari on YouTube. We're always doing set shows where we talk about specific sets, or we'll have tip and trick shows. We'll have like now at the end of the year, we're getting ready to do a best of. So like the top 5 foreign buys of 2020, or we do just pickup shows. We do interviews of really interesting people or collectors within the hobby. Definitely check out Global Comic Safari. I love it. I love doing that show, and you can hear my ugly mug talking more there if you want to.
All right. Well, we'll go over to Rob.
So yes, I primarily do my stuff on IG. My handle is right there, Rob's Comics 81. I post stuff from time to time, or something I feel like is interesting or even exciting in my possession. I actually will post it and share information or give some crazy hang tag or some kind of crazy quote to put underneath of it. But I could say that I have skin in the game too. I do reach out to other collectors, so it's fun, man. If you guys join in, you guys can partake in it. But one thing I can say is I feel sorry for your wallet. Let me just say that out loud. It's going to be times you be like, I got $20 left. What can I do? You know what? Can you be on a payment plan? I'll pay you next week. It's going to be a lot of those. So don't be afraid. If you feel intimidated or feel overwhelmed, do not hesitate to reach one of us. We're more than willing to help. There's sharks in the water too. Let's just be real. That's any hobby, but there's no point in doing it if you're going to be scared. This is big game here. This isn't going for a little puddle or goldfish. You're going for the big sharks, dolphins, some rare fish. Got to cast that hook. So you got to take chances. So
yeah,
I'm glad you guys are coming down the rabbit hole with us. Coming with us.
Yeah,
it's warm down here.
I will say that I have been forewarned, as I mentioned earlier, by Matt's wife, And I was also warned because I posted this on Instagram Live, and a guy that y'all know, Interglobal Comics.
Oh yeah,
Steve.
Steve. Yeah.
He says, an evening with those two will make foreign comic addiction take hold of you. So
He knows. He knows. He ain't lying.
So, well, like I said, I do appreciate you guys. Their contact information is in the description of the video below. I do appreciate those of you who hung out with us, or for those who catch it on the rewind. In either case, be sure to check these guys out on the aforementioned social medias. If you want to find out more about the foreign edition collecting, and also smash that like button and hit the subscribe button. And I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas for them and their family. And until next time, keep reading and keep collecting. Adios.
Bye.